we're Peter and Heather. So we've just bought our pre-loved, new to us sailing boat, and I'm going to start this video talking about some of the mistakes that I've made that you don't have to. And I've spent a long time looking for this boat, in fact years really, to find a boat that I hope is going to take me on some exciting adventures in coastal waters of the UK. But it got me thinking about all of the mistakes I've made, or nearly made, and how I can share these so that hopefully more budget sailors can get on the water and not face so many hurdles so early on. I've split this video into 5 tips, or mistakes we can call them, and if you watch till the end I'll also show you what I ended up buying myself. So, tip number 1, beware the TLC. This is the classic budget boat advert on eBay. It's a 28-foot long sailing boat and it's in need of a bit of TLC. For those that don't know, TLC stands for tender loving care. It's a pretty subjective phrase. It could mean anything from just a few finishing touches, so i.e. the previous owner bought some new electronics and didn't get round to wiring them in, or it could mean that this boat has been left to rot on a river mooring for 20 years and it needs someone to take it off their hands, or they actually will have to pay someone to scrap it for them. So I've just been to view a Trapper 800. There were only 2 photos of the outside of the boat and nothing of the inside, which to me was kind of an indicator that it wasn't going to be good inside. Yeah, that was correct when I got there, because it wasn't, it was a big project. And I think whenever you see a boat kind of advertised as in need of a bit of TLC, yeah, I think you can normally expect that it's a large project. The TLC boat could be okay, it could genuinely be a bargain and really only need a few bits of attention in some areas, or it could be a total waste of your time. And if the goal is to get sailing soon, you don't want to find that you've missed a season and have to pay to store something that you can't get on the water. Just make sure that you go in with your eyes open and don't get taken in by the bells and whistles when the deck is rotten through, for example. As the age-old saying goes, you can't polish it. Also, this nicely leads to the project boat, because a boat advertised as in need of a bit of TLC can easily become a project boat. Think that in reality any second-hand budget sailing boat is always going to be somewhat a project boat, so if you can reduce the size of the project then you are more likely to be able to get onto the water and go sailing, and that's the goal. I think it's useful to keep this in the front of your mind. It might seem obvious, but I've found that there are many ways to go off the path away from sailing and into the realms of boatyard life. So be honest with yourself, do you really enjoy projects? Because some people do, and that's fine. If you want to do it, then take on the project. But if you want to get sailing sooner rather than later, minimise wherever possible these additional projects. Again, the word project, when used to describe a boat, generally means that there's a lot of work that is required to get the boat safely sailing or enjoyably sailing. So taking on a project, I think, can actually be a form of procrastination from going sailing. It might be accidental or subconscious, but if you want to go sailing, I would instead say don't look for a project boat. This leads me on to another point, which is engine woes. You buy a great boat and everything else works on it, but it's got an unreliable engine. A new boat engine from Peter Marine is going to set you back at least £4,500 in 2023 in the UK, and that's without it being fitted by a marine engineer. I've viewed so many boats over the last couple of years. Most of budget sailboats that I've looked at have had unreliable engines. And an unreliable engine can be a real stopper for reaching your sailing goals. It can actually make the boat that you've bought pretty worthless, and you could get stuck with it in a marina, paying fees and no one else wanting to buy it. And you also don't have the budget to replace the engine, which could cost more to buy than the boat was purchased for in the first place anyway. So why, you might ask, as the boat is a sailing boat and it has sails for a purpose, do you need to care so much about the engine? Well, in the UK coastal waters, you will find that you need a reliable engine for safety reasons. What happens if someone goes overboard and you need to drop the sails, switch on the engine and go and get them? Or are you trying to stem a strong tide? Or are you trying to make it around a headland and the wind dies? These are just some examples. When you're looking around a boat that you might purchase, always ask the owner to run the engine from cold. Did they get there an hour early to fire it up before you arrived? You could even try putting your hand on it when you get there and check to see if it's warm. Have they sprayed quick start on it to get it going? This happened to me once when I viewed a boat. Do they have to hand crank it and tell you that it's a useful feature? This also happened to me when looking at a boat. Yes, it might be useful to use a hand crank in a pinch, but this isn't practical day to day. To wrap this point up, Yes, it is a sailboat, but if I could offer you one piece of advice, try and make sure that the engine is reliable, or you could just end up stuck in the marina. Realistic budgets. It is said that the average cost of maintaining a used boat is 10% a year, and that's probably more now with inflation, and this obviously goes up depending on how large your boat is too. So if you buy a used 35-foot sailing boat for £20,000, you could be spending £2,000 a year on maintenance. I don't think this would include upgrades either. So far this year, our sailboat has cost us around £450 in maintenance, and that includes a boat lift on the south coast of the UK, being ashore for about one weekend, a power hose, hull clean, and the cost of anti-fouling paint and painting that on ourselves. There will be other maintenance too, and that is before any upgrades to the equipment, such as a chart plotter, and that's if we decide to install one. We have also been very grateful that the mooring fees were covered by the previous owner until March this year. I looked around a lot of boats before I chose the boat I have now. I was looking at boats in the sub 30-foot range to reduce the stress of mooring fees, but still have enough waterline length that it would be feasible to sail between coastal ports in the UK in relative comfort. Between 26 to 29 feet in length, and preferably a bilge keel so that I could beach the boat or have it sit nicely on a beach mooring. I looked around loads of boats, probably about 10 physically all around the country and hundreds online, and my budget hadn't really left enough in there to maintain or upgrade the equipment. The boats I was looking at were, for example, Westerly Centaur, a Cobra 850 and 750 and a Stag 28. I think in hindsight that my budget was a bit unrealistic for sailing this season. I could have taken on too big a project, a TLC boat or a boat with engine woes, or what leads me on to my next point is a boat in the wrong location. I'm going to view a boat down in Weymouth. Where you moor a boat could be the biggest outgoing for your sailing dream. If you bought a 26-foot sailing boat for £6,000, you could easily spend more than the boat cost you on mooring the boat on a pontoon in a marina in the south coast of the UK for 1 year only. And what if you also want to save up for a bigger boat for a future adventure? All this money is just going on storing the boat. That's another £6,000 you could have saved towards a bigger boat for your future sailing goals. Some would say it's a boat and you can easily move it. Yes, you could move it to an extent, but you still need to find somewhere else to store it and have the competency to do that. As a newbie skipper, you might not feel ready to move it elsewhere. You could also have the boat trailered if this was the case. Looks like that boat's just gone round Portland Vale. I've been reading up about it because there was a boat in Weymouth I wanted to buy. You could find that there's a local sailing club where you could moor it at a much cheaper rate, but moorings aren't always available immediately to new members. So here's a Westerly Centaur which I viewed in Weymouth, and actually I would have bought this boat. It was a very nice boat and it had a recent survey, so I didn't even have to pay for that myself. It had a reliable engine, the rigging was good and it had been renewed within 10 years. It ticked all the boxes that I'd been looking at when looking for a second-hand boat. But when I looked into the mooring fees, it was in a very expensive marina, and I didn't feel that at the time I had the competency to move it around what's quite a tricky headland known as Portland Bill. So I decided in the end, with that and considering the cost of the mooring fees, which would have amounted to more than £6,000 a year, to not purchase this boat, keep saving my money. So after all this, what did we actually go for? Well, we bought a Marcone Tomahawk 25-foot masthead sloop, which was built in 1972, and it's got a 10 horsepower engine. We actually bought a fin keel boat instead of a bilge keel boat, and I'm really happy with this boat. I think it's going to be a great little boat for us. It's also a bit smaller, so it's actually 25 foot, and I think the advantage of this is already showing in that it's costing less to maintain and to moor. And we bought it down in Gosport. Here are just some videos of when we sailed it a couple of months ago with the previous owner and a friend of his. It's been brilliant so far, and we're really looking forward to having some adventures on it this summer. So if you follow along, then hopefully I'll be sharing some more videos. So I'm really hoping that this is going to be the boat that's going to let us have some adventures this summer in the UK. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe. It really helps grow this channel, which we've just started, and it also means that the video gets shown to more like-minded people. See you next time!